Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, I've got a great guest for you today, Paul Rees. Paul Rees is a legacy business designer, and he is a fellow host here at UK Health Radio, which, as of today, now has 1.5 million listeners every month. Or is it every week or every month? It's a lot of people are listening to us. And you can find out more about Paul Rees and his wonderful work at his website, www.paulrees.business. Welcome, Paul Rees.
Catherine, thank you ever so much for having me on your show, girl. It's a pleasure and an honor.
So, Paul Rees, there are so many reasons I'm excited about interviewing you because so many people in natural healing, they start out with some corporate job and then they get stressed out and burned out and they go, gosh, I want to do natural healing. And so then they go from having a corporate job into natural healing. You started out your career as a medium and then went into business. You went the other way.
So true.
So, will you share for our audience about your career path? Because I find it very interesting.
Well, I kind of fell into mediumship, and and it was something that after going to a medium, at a point in my life where I was going through a breakdown, and it was a personal breakdown, nothing to do with my business or career. And she said, apparently my grandmother came through and said, you can do this, Paul. You can be a medium. And I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always had that in me, always been there. And when eventually I did find the spiritualist churches that's here in the UK that are kind of, I don't know, kind of sheds put together or outhouses or call it what you wish, but they're not the big steeple buildings that you see. And within 2 or 3 weeks of finding a, let's say, a spiritualist church, um, I was working full time as a medium. It wasn't a massive transition. For me, mediumship was very easy, as it is for everybody. And, I spent 10 years traveling the US, Canada, and Europe. We did the television, got the books out there, um, and we flew all over the world doing workshops and one-to-one readings and audience demonstrations. And I really loved that part of my life, but I ran it like a business. I'm a very spiritual person, but I realized that if you wish to be successful as a medium, you have to be firm in how you run your business as you would any other business. And that's what I did for 10 years, and I really enjoyed it. But I knew the industry is very much, and this isn't a negative, but it's just a measured fact. The industry is very capped. You can only go so far without the strong arm of television, and a string or a trail of books, constant trail of books, in order to keep manufacturing your mediumship career. And we did, myself and Deb, my wife, she was a medium with me. We did incredibly well and had a fantastic career and a very successful business. But as an entrepreneur, it wasn't filling me enough. The spirituality of it was, but the drive of the business, I couldn't get it no further because it's not the type of industry where you can keep growing the business unless you have the strong arm of constant television behind you.
So fascinating. So how did you become a legacy business designer then? How does a person go from being a medium to being a legacy business designer?
I mean, I'm wondering how long we have, for me to talk about all this. So basically, before I was a medium, I worked in design, I worked in manufacturing. I was also part of a team that would build production lines. So I've always had that part in me where there was a leadership, um, head team role, always had that. And then I left that industry to become a full-time medium. And then I'm going to say, as when you're doing one-to-one readings, and there's a natural intuitive there where you are basically working with the soul layers, the emotional layers, the mediumistic layers, or with the of the recipient you're working with, and um, you really learn to understand people on a very high level, will I say. And that just naturally progressed back into my love for business, my love for understanding how to grow business. And we now are an age where we no longer trade in business to business. We trade in person to person, or may I say soul to soul now. There's a huge realization. And so I suppose there was a natural transition where I don't use my mediumship in my business coaching. Trust me, I got ridiculed for a long time, and people kind of turned their back on me when they heard that I was a medium going into business coaching. There was just not a gel in those days in the business industry. Now it's very more open-minded, and I do work with executives and teach them mediumship, not because they wish to use it, but you learn to hold your place of wisdom longer in your mind. You learn to tap into the high level ideas for a longer periods of time when you're thinking, by understanding your mechanics of mediumship. So yeah, there was just a natural transition where I was always someone that was really overly interested in how business works.
This is, thank you for sharing. And I have to share briefly a little because this is our interview with you. But my first 10 years, I'm 65 as of this recording. I was a journalist. I was a newspaper reporter and I covered business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote about business and I had fellowships to Wall Street. I interviewed Alan Greenspan and Al Volcker at the same time. And but at any rate, but now I'm a medical intuitive healer, but I use my intuition for everything,
Yeah.
including
Yeah.
business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even people hire me, who do I hire? I want to hire someone and I'll talk to them about this person's good for this, but not for that. And then I use it in my investing and all of that. So you are now a legacy business designer. What is a legacy business designer?
Well, the understanding of philanthropy or being philanthropic has slowly but surely been creeping its way into people's priorities of thinking and how to think. And in order to build and shape a philanthropic business, you have to understand your legacy. Not legacy moving forward, but your legacy in who you've been in the past. And we call this monetizing your past or life currency. And effectively, I design businesses with individuals that wish to reshape what it is they do, to invest in what we call the emotional economy more so than the financial economy. So if you look at the past greats of those that have made dramatic change in industry, many of them, or a large chunk of those, were just philanthropic individuals where the thought of the money was secondary. The thought of earning money actually, for many, didn't come into the equation. You take Nike, if you've read the book Shoe Dog, you will see a very philanthropic individual that loved running. And Richard Branson of Virgin, a very philanthropic individual. Everything that he creates is about the purposeful bettering of people's thinking life and how they can then transition that think of that experience into somebody else's life. So a legacy business is designed in that way. And it's a process. Often individuals that come in and wish to build a legacy business are usually with me about 24 months. The first 3 months is about recording their life story in detail and getting that on camera. That then gives us the foundation to what is just the early stages of what philanthropy looks like in that person. So a legacy business is a process, and more entrepreneurs, Catherine, are steering towards wanting to be more of a philanthropic or be more of a philanthropic entrepreneur than a money orientated entrepreneur. That is with the way we've heading, and somewhat it's been creeping in for the last 10 years.
So great explanation. So Paul Rees, one of my favorite authors is Stuart Wilde, and he wrote a wonderful book called The Trick to Money is Having Some. And he
Mhm.
started out like you as a very spiritual person and wanting to change the world. And he realized, well, gosh, if I want to change the world, it actually takes money to do that, right?
Mhm.
Like if I don't have money, I can't contribute to the food bank. If I don't have money, I can't create videos on YouTube that people can go and watch for free that will help them heal naturally, which is part
Yeah.
of what I do, right? Now, let's talk about business. In your opinion, why do people fail in business?
Oh, wow, that's such a brilliant question. Let's put this down to two main factors. One is no money alignment. What I mean by that is that most people are running their business as they would their pocket money as a child.
Mhm.
And they are still reaffirming that money habit into their business. If, as a child, you saved every penny, you will find that those people in business keep saving and saving and saving, and the business becomes choked on the amount of money that sits there stagnant. You may find if a child always spent his money, his pocket money on mom and dad and other people, you'll find that person just keeps spending and spending and spending and eventually dries the business up. People fail because they don't understand their emotional money alignment from their childhood. That's one reason. The other reason is because they're addicted to generosity. So again, it's something you adopt in your life from the early part of your childhood. And we do it out of guilt, responsibility, and all those things we bring forward into our business. Catherine, I'm a recovered, generous person. That doesn't mean I'm not generous, but I'm generous for the right reasons. So it's money alignment and addicted to generosity are the two main reasons. We could throw many others in, like the fear of the word no is a huge one. And that prevents most business owners from attempting to sell because they fear the word no. But it's nothing to do with the business. It's all to do with the first time they experience no in their childhood. Mom, can I have this? No. Dad, can I have this? No. They are reaffirming that same emotion in their business sales.
So great information. So, Paul Rees, in my healing room, I have an entire manual on clearing money issues. Now, as a medical intuitive healer, you can imagine the reason that most people come to me is for their health or for sorting out, conflicts in their relationships. But underlying all of this is their relationship with money. And what I find, from 31 years of experience, one of the things, what a real some important healings to do about money is to do a healing to act your age when you deal with money. Because most people, I know you and I are laughing, right? Most people act less than 5 years old when they deal with money because it brings up all of their childhood issues. And if you can simply be the rational adult in any transaction, you're going to come out ahead and you're going to deal with things in a more rational marriage. Now, Paul Rees, I know you are happily married. What is the essence of marriage, and how does marriage success contribute to business success?
I love that question, and thank you for asking that. That excites me. So let's simplify this. Marriage is one thing. There is one simple insight into making marriage easy, and that it's my job to make my wife Deb love Deb. That is it. It's my job to make Deb love Deb. And it's Deb's job to make Paul love Paul. It's not my job to make Deb love me. It's my job to make her love her, regardless of how I feel, regardless of how I am on the day, regardless of whether we're in the middle of a row. It's my job to make Deb love Deb. By doing that, I'm removing all my negative ego, all my past disappointments, all my little boy attitudes. That's the secret to a marriage over above everything else. To work together, the important thing to know is what I see are Deb's weaknesses are her strengths. You see, for the myself and Deb have been running businesses together for 20 years. For the first 10 years, Deb struggled. The reason why she struggled was because I keep getting in the way and wanted her to run her business the way I run mine. Then 10 years ago, I stepped out and said, you know what, I'm going to mind my own business. And the day after, her business thrived in the way that, and it's frustrating for me because Deb does 90% less of the effort that I do, and she's always capacity in her business with her clients because she emotionally runs it the way that it fits for her. And we have meetings. Deb is a big ideas person. I'm a critical shelf stacking individual. So I'm one of those that likes to have all my shelves stacked, labeled, and everything done correctly. So I'm the intricate person. So the secret to a couple being in business together is to not shame each other's weaknesses and understand the importance of them.
Great information. And with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. We have the honor and privilege of listening to Paul Rees, the host of the Business Health and Emotional Wealth Show. We'll be right back.
We're in a placeholder.
Yes, and we're taking a break, so we'll be right back. Paul Rees, you are a legacy business designer. So, as such, you basically help people make more money. Is money an emotional or physical currency?
Oh, 100% emotional. Here's the thing is that money has no emotion until we put emotion to it. Now we could say $10 is $10. We cannot change the value, the actual face value of $10. But $10 to me will be different to $10 to you, Catherine, because of our childhood. And that is the same for 100% of the whole population or any human being that handles money and has a memory of money from childhood. And again, going back to money alignment, you have to really understand the value that you put on money. Lots of people carry shame with money. Lots of people carry greed, selfishness, privacy, fear, all these things, but none of those emotions have anything to do with that day's transaction. It's all to do with their past transaction. And usually the first probably 5, maybe 10 years at the most in their life build up their then money value, their emotional money value. They keep repeating over and over and over in their lives. And that is one of the alpha reasons why the majority of small business owners go into failure.
Yes, and I agree with you. And as I mentioned, I have an entire manual on clearing money issues, and you would be shocked or surprised how many people's health issues all boil down to their relationship with money. Even
Mm.
something as simple as like, I value myself enough to get well, right? Um, but one of the things that's interesting to me, so we talked about how your money programs usually start before age 5. And then there's what you learn from mom, what you learn from dad, and also what you learn from your culture. So, for example, I have a friend who's homeless, and how he deals with money is completely entirely different from how he deals from me. So I think we also have to look at that larger cultural context. Like, I mean, none of my friends steal from each other. That's not how we survive. Now, Paul Rees, in your work, you talk about seven ducks. What are seven ducks?
Seven ducks.
Yes.
Okay, help it reframe that for me if we can, because I'm trying to remember seven ducks.
Okay, so we're gonna move on. And so how do you monetize your past? So you talk about when you work with clients, you talk to them about their life history and then
Mhm.
help them to use their life history to monetize a successful business. How does a
Yes.
person go about monetizing their past?
Here's the thing is that, so let me share a quote first, which is something I heard many years ago, is that your enemies are your ancient friends in disguise. And in order to monetize our past, and let's remember, listeners, when we think about that, that we are not instantly going into hard money monetization. That's secondary. That is the byproduct of what would be creating life currency first. So to monetize your past, you have to appreciate the value of, firstly, the value of investment that everybody put into your life for you to have the development you've had as a human being. I could say that, and truthfully, my dad was a very skilled wife beater, and he was a very skilled wife. I put the word skill there, and this might sound harsh, but here's the thing: is that there was a sacrifice to him being a wonderful, kind-hearted dad. And that sacrifice was to be who we wanted him to be. And everybody will have a different philosophy on this. Understand? So I'm not saying this is fact. But I have to appreciate who he was as a person for me to take the full value of development that I had from those days from his actions. And by doing that, I have to have an acceptance and understanding, and also take on the intricate skill that it takes to be that type of bad feeling human being. It's not easy to be a bad person. It's hard. It takes endurance to be a bad person. But we don't see that. We only see the bad person. We don't appreciate the effort that it takes. We are naturally loving human beings. That's and we are born that way. We're not born with hate in us. We have to evolve that. We have to work with that in order for that then to show itself out. So, in order to monetize your past, your first priority is to understand the value of the people that played a part in your own development as a human being and who you are. Once you understand that, then you have to put the value to it in how you are then taking that experience and presenting it back out into the emotional economy, back out into life for others to benefit from your development in order to what would be, oh, let me just go to this, sorry, in order for them, I know my phone went off, I apologize, in
It's
order for them to then take that development and keep using and keeps being recycled. That is the emotional economy. So to monetize your past, you have to look at the value of your past first.
great, great insight. Yes. Now, as you mentioned, so you said that so many people fail in business because they can't handle a no. And
Yeah.
in my healing work, I actually sometimes do healing with people on accepting yes and also accepting no, right? So, how does the no make for failure in business?
Now, a no is actually one of the healthiest two-letter words in our life. A no is very healthy. But if we again we're going to replay a little bit of a recycled information here, which is you experience the no for the first time as a child, and it always comes from a place where it's something you want, you are desiring, you want, you need, you're craving for, whatever it may be. Then suddenly what we find is there is a trail, a recycle of the word no over and over and over if we keep repeating the same sale to our parents, because we are selling to our parents as children. That's what we're doing. Keep repeating the same sale, we get the same no over and over and over. Now when we come into business, it's the same emotion. We are selling now not to our parents, but we're selling to clients and customers, and we are selling something that we are passionate about. I was passionate, I could say, in wanting what I wanted off my mom at the time that she said no. I am putting the same passion into the sales to my clients and customers, but I'm now dreading the word no because it reminds me of my no back as a child. So the failure happens then is that people stop selling. And instead of selling, what they do is give away. So now they become a charity business. So effectively, what they're saying is that, okay, I will massively discount my product. I'll feel better about that. Or I'll do a trade. That's one of the business killers. I'll do a trade. Or I'll do it for free and hope that you'll start paying me. And these are generally the three modern habits for most SME business owners.
Yes, and I would add to that also that when you go into a toy store as a child, you're like, oh, I want this and I want that and I want this and I want that. And then mom or dad says, no, we can't afford all this. You can only get that. And so what happens is, I think that for so many people who've heard no, that they begin to restrict the abundance that they allow themselves to experience in life. And
Yeah.
so instead of wanting everything, I want this big, wonderful life, it's like, okay, I guess I'm only going to allow myself this much, right? And so that's a narrowing of our ability to receive. And if you're listening to this broadcast, a really good way to help to open that up is to write an affirmation. And the affirmation is, I openly and willingly receive the gifts of others now. I openly and willingly receive the gifts of others now. And going back to what I was saying about Paul Stewart Wild and the trick to money having some. And if you want to change the world, you have to have money in order to do that. So when you become a better receiver and an open channel for receiving the blessings of life, then it's so much easier to share everything, your wisdom, your business, healing energy.
Absolutely, 100%. And let's understand, listeners, there is no capping on money anywhere. There's no the law of the land doesn't stop you from abundance. US, Europe, wherever you may be, my country doesn't say I can only earn this much money in my business. And it's not illegal either to earn money in business. It's not illegal to earn abundance in business. So you think about that, it's like, well, then why are we capping it? Why are we capping our own success? And that's purely done from the fear of the past, not the abundance of the future.
Now, Paul Rees, going back to your personal history as a medium, going into your work as a legacy business designer, you talked about wanting and needing to tap into high level ideas to be successful in business.
Mhm.
What does it take, or how do you recommend people tap into high level ideas in order to succeed in business?
Okay, so I'll just backpedal a little with it and say, firstly, most business owners only listen to a tiny percentage of their thoughts. The rest is usually caught up in panic, reactive business ideas, disappointments. So the idea is that first of all, how do we get used to listening to ourselves on a more detailed level? Now, I'm not talking listening with our physical hearing. We're actually listening to our mind, listening to our thoughts. And we're now also we have to understand to do this, you have to divorce digital technology for a little while. You have to be prepared to schedule into your day silent time where there's the phone, the laptop, and all these things. Your wisdom is fighting for space in between these. It's fighting. Your wisdom is just hunting for room to get in order to share time with you in the day. And you have to purposely set time aside. I'm not talking about sitting and meditating. That is a beautiful experience, and I enjoy my meditations, but that isn't my time where I'm actually giving myself time to hear me. Meditations can take you into beautiful scenarios and really increase your range of imagination, which is a huge part of your day. Now, your imagination, and we could say your ability to use your wisdom, they are husband and wives, or they are partners, they are married. So, first of all, schedule in free time. Put an hour a day where you just sit and you learn to hear your thoughts. Most people's thoughts are they use the front thought, which is the chapter title, we could say, and they are running on chapter titles all day and not allowing themselves to read the pages of information from wisdom that's come with those chapter titles. If you're in a car and you suddenly think you want to turn left, but you should have gone right, you'll hear, should have right, right. You'll hear it in the front of your mind. Your wisdom really is a little further back, not in your brain, but just, or it could be further out. Just learning to turn up the volume on the thoughts that are fighting every day to come in to be listened, which effectively is your intuition.
Great information. And with that, let's take another break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. We've been listening to Paul Rees, fellow host here at the wonderful UK Health Radio. He's the host of the Business Health and Emotional Wealth show, fantastic show, and a legacy business designer. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. We'll be right back. Paul Rees, you are a legacy business designer. And as I interview people for the Natural Healing Show, these are the top healers in the world. And so many of us get into this work because we're very caring people. You talk about being a recovered, generous person. What do you mean by being a recovered, generous person?
Now, we've talked about the word no. Let's talk about the word yes then. Now, the word yes can be as destructive as the word no. And most people are overly generous or addicted to generosity because of guilt, responsibility, self-worth, value, wanting to be liked, feeling they need to do more, have a overly hard-working attitude in life. Now, all these things are great, but they lead to you always being half full because you're constantly giving away yourself with no return. That doesn't mean when we give something, we should expect something back. But the truth being is, whatever you give out in life has to have the value of return for you. That again, that doesn't mean you give something to expect something, but there has to be an exchange of energy so the universe can effectively keep you full within your life source, your life energy, let's say, not life source, your life energy. So when we are addicted to generosity, we are constantly giving away our energy in whichever capacity we can for the wrong reasons. And generally, the reason why we're addicted to generosity is because we have very little worth, self-worth. This is camouflaged then by the doing, having to do for others, wanting to do for others, being sure we over deliver. That is one of the greatest misunderstandings in business is they say over deliver. Well, if you're going to over deliver, you need to have a clear measure of your addiction to your generosity in the first place, because there's over delivering and there's overkilling over delivering, which effectively is going to see you off energetically anyway, because you cannot sustain the constant give of over energy. So when we think about your addiction to generosity and how that kills a business, basically most business owners are trying to run three versions of themselves by giving too much in all capacity, even in personal life. Personal life, again, addicted to generosity is a big issue in marriage, relationship, parenting. It's all there.
So great information. Now, I would use the term codependency, right? And which is an emotional, mental emotional issue that many people fall into. And even what I find is a lot of healers are codependent with their clients, and
Mm-hmm.
they intertwine their energy with their clients, and this is extremely unhealthy. What is the connection between codependency and being too generous?
Well, you know, if we think about something you just shared there, which was, healers entwining their energy with their clients, you know, codependency, addicted to generosity is fed by the want to be liked, recognized, and appreciated. And for many, depending on the size of ego, lifted, being uplifted constantly by people telling them how great they are, how wonderful they are, and that codependent or that person addicted to generosity will put themselves in a place where they are constantly um, being fed bragging rights, let's say, by the people around them. And that's the thing is that within business, when you become dependent on feedback of that nature, then effectively you're not growing your business at all. You're just constantly revisiting your past.
What does it mean to love yourself with authenticity? This is something that you talk to your clients about.
You know, when so loving yourself is a very healthy place to be in life. And being when you're authentic with our love, which means that you never actually need anybody to compliment, anybody to give you that kind of feel that you're a beautiful person. When you love yourself authentically, you have a knowing of your own human, spiritual, biological, and mental value. You know that about yourself. We were born with those layers at 100% capacity without any question. We were born with true 100% self-worth. We loved ourselves at that moment of birth unconditionally, or we wouldn't have bothered pushing out. We would have stayed there. We knew we were worth more. We knew we had value, and we were going to give value. That is that is like an absolute understanding. And then, of course, we enter into childhood, and that has a kind of, and for healthy reasons, it reverses it because we need to grow. We need to be challenged in our own self love. That's how, they say if you don't use your stamina, you don't use your endurance, you lose it. If you don't recognize your self love, you forget it. And then we have to remember. It's so important. The value that you have in your own self is the true value of return from universe and life, equally, unconditionally.
Okay, so I'm going to translate that for our audience. What Paul Rees basically said is that if you want to earn more money in life, you have to love yourself more, correct?
Absolutely, yes. And but love yourself not in a physical monetary sense. Love yourself in an emotional sense. Don't think I love myself this much, I should be a millionaire. It doesn't work like that. You should say, I love myself this much because life is worth it. I love myself this much because life is worth it. Put a number to it. You could say, I'm worth 1 million emotional pounds. That is different. I am worth, and that is a very small amount of money. Let's understand that, listeners. 1 million is a very small amount of money. You're deciding the size of that. So love yourself to the value you're worth in life.
Now, Paul Rees, many of the listeners here at the Natural Healing Show are other people who run businesses in holistic healing, and you are a legacy business designer. What advice do you have for people running businesses in holistic healing?
Okay. Um, Firstly, don't wait for spirit to bring it to you. Don't wait for the universe to bring it to you. Bring it to yourself. So the universe then can co-work with you. Many people in the metaphysical world struggle because they are waiting for it to happen. And they carry pockets of gems and they carry the mantras. And all these things that are beautiful. But in order for your business, for 10 years, we had one of the most successful mediumistic coaching businesses globally. And we traveled all over the world, and people flew from all over the world to the UK to come in our week-long workshops. Now, what I did there, listeners, was I run it like a business. I separated my business from so let's say my spirituality. And what I mean by that is I was firm on the reason why, the purpose of the business. And you got to understand that a business is designed to do one thing: sell an excellence of service or an excellence of product for money. That is it. It's an exchange of energy. I am selling my skills as a medium to the public that will pay for my skills. If the public that I'm trying to sell it to won't pay for my skills, then I need to sell it to another avatar. You've got to understand that, and a lot of people in the metaphysical world, the reason why they're struggling is because, and I'll say this again, and this could put an edge on it there, Catherine. I do apologize, but many people don't see the value in themselves. It's easy to say, I'm a beautiful spiritual person. That is so easy to say, over, I'm a beautiful human being. We have to see how the value in us as a human being before the spirit part, because the business is what makes the money. The spirituality is what delivers the product. You have to understand they are separate identities.
Great information. And, Paul Rees, as a medical intuitive healer, my intuition never shuts down. I I use my intuition about everything, including business. So for those who are highly intuitive, again, many of my listeners, how can we use our intuition to succeed in business?
Now, your intuition is beautiful. And like yourself, Catherine, I use my intuition throughout my day, throughout my life, constantly. It's understanding, though, the difference in your intuition and the difference in make believe. There's a big difference. And make believe, I'm gonna anchor the ego to that, but the negative ego. So most people, a lot of people, they misunderstand the difference between what is authentic intuition, which effectively is the soft skill part of you, the spiritual part of you, the part of you that gives your ideas true purpose for other people to have true purpose. Now, your intuition will always marry that flow, always. But if your intuition, if you feel you're using your intuition, one, to make over decisions for you. If you're sitting and it depends, then of course it's no longer your intuition. You are basically finding a way to sabotage ideas. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So
It
what I
does.
would say, I'm going to translate what you just said. I would say you have to set your shadow aside, right? The
Well,
unintegrated aspect of your ego, right? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Your intuition is a beautiful tool in business, but understand your intuition has to have authenticity. And that's where people kind of get it mixed up.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. Our guest today has been Paul Rees, the host of the wonderful Business Health and Emotional Wealth Show. And if you haven't popped over to listen to Paul Rees, definitely put him on your playlist. My name is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. I use my intuition about everything, including my business. You can find out more about me at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. And you can learn about Paul Rees at his website, paulrees.business. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, the world needs more healing. And when you learn to love yourself, you can succeed naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.